After walking for 5 days, Girmay Matthew has finally reached Kassala in Sudan. He escaped fighting in his hometown of Humera in Ethiopia's Tigray region. He's exhausted and hungry.
When the fighting started and people were being killed, I left everything behind and fled. I walked for days and became weak, but I had to continue. Now I'm suffering from fatigue and I've been diagnosed with malaria.
Girmay is one of more than 20,000 people who fled to Sudan seeking safety. Some have chest infections, raising concerns that they may be infected with the coronavirus. The refugees include pregnant women like Amlasat Baharat.
When the bombardment started, I took my children and ran. Even though I'm pregnant, I carried one on my back and one on my arm, and I started running away without a sense of direction until I arrived at the river and crossed into Sudan. I have not had food for days and my belly is hurting, even though I've got a month before giving birth.
The reception center here at Hamdayet has one health clinic, but lacks proper medical equipment. Doctors say more and more patients are arriving every day.
We get wounded people because of explosive materials like grenades, gunshots and fractures. Some people have diabetes. We try to handle the cases we can, but where we can't, we refer them to the county hospital. But we are quite concerned about the possibility of spread of communicable diseases amongst refugees because they're all close together in a small space.
Sudan is planning to transfer people here to another camp, those at least who are well enough to move. But more refugees are expected, and the pressure on this clinic will remain. Hiba Morgan, Al Jazeera, Hamdayet, near the Sudan-Ethiopia border.
Very pleased to have John Ryle with us now, a specialist on East Africa and a professor at Bard College and the Open Society University Network. Mr. Ryle, thank you for joining us. So we've heard there from Hiba about the humanitarian side. We've heard about the acute fighting going on. I want to do some big picture stuff with you. Where all this conflict has actually come from in the first place and why, why now?
Well, I think it's a conflict long in the making, although it's still sudden and it's caused even in just a couple of weeks. Ethiopia is a very unique country. It's famously the only country in Africa that was never colonized by European imperial powers. And that's because Ethiopia itself was an empire. Still is an empire. It's a land-based empire, can be compared to the former Soviet Union, the USSR. And in a way, after the end of the empire, which is only 1976, when Emperor Haile Selassie was deposed by the Derg, who were a Stalinist regime that ruled for the next couple of decades. Ever since then, it's been working out its fate. There are many ethno-linguistic groups, and these are recognized in the Ethiopian constitution in 10 regions, one of which is Tigray. But Tigray has a very unique historical role. It has a deep historical role as one of the major highland ethno-linguistic groups that competed for power in the empire. And it has a more recent role as the group which liberated Ethiopia from the Derg. This was a very long war, which only ended in 1992. And since then, the Tigrayans formed the core of the government in Ethiopia. And that was until 2 years ago, really. And that's what the crisis is about. It's about the marginalization of Tigray.
So, given you describe the country as regional, 10 regions, I think you said, is the situation we see in Tigray unique to that region, or is it, worryingly, the kind of thing which could be replicated in other areas? We already hear about people like the Oromo, for example.
Well, in a way, this crisis has been triggered by the new ascendancy of Oromia. Oromia is the biggest, most populous region in Ethiopia, but it's historically been marginalized. But the current Prime Minister, Abiy Ahmed, is an Oromo. And in a way, he came to power in an attempt to quell what was really a rising wave of dissent from Oromia. But then he proceeded to marginalize Tigrayans in the government, who had hitherto really controlled this government, despite the fact that they're only one of these 10 different regions. And it's resistance to that which has escalated into this conflict between the central government and this single region.
So then what are your thoughts on... OK, so there's an acute crisis right now which needs to be resolved and investigated, and, well, we don't quite know how that's going to happen. But really, it sounds to me like there is a longer-term issue which needs to be addressed here. Do you think that can be addressed and satisfactorily to all sides?
Well, I mean, Ethiopia fought a war with Eritrea in 1998, a war over a tiny strip of land actually in Tigray on the border, because Tigray borders Eritrea to the north. And Eritrea was the first part of the Ethiopian empire to secede. This was a velvet divorce in the mid-90s, but it was followed by this very bitter war in which about 50,000 people died, even though the spoils of war were this tiny bit of land without any resources. That war, although it ended after a couple of years, was not resolved until 2 years ago, even 1 year ago, which is why Abiy Ahmed won the Nobel Peace Prize for creating peace between his country and Eritrea. Now, Eritrea has been itself attacked by the Tigrayan insurgency. So it's already actually a regional war, if you like. It's already spread beyond the borders of Ethiopia.
John Ryle, thank you so much for your time. It's really good to get that historical context to put all of this, as I say, in context for us. Thank you.
Thank you.